This is Asiatu, and welcome to a bonus episode, a prequel, shall we say, to season 2 of the Audacious Autistics podcast. I'm not sure if you're aware, but I have a new team this season, and shortly we're going to get to know all of them. But before I begin, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for their patience, for their support in this time of transition. It has been one that was totally caught off. I was totally caught off guard, but at the same time, I'm so thankful that my community was there for me and supportive, and that I was able to find my new team members via connections within the autistic community. So if you didn't know before, you definitely know now. All of us are autistic and neurodivergent plus. Excuse me. So without further ado, I will introduce everybody. Oh, and feel free to find Audacious Autistics on Facebook and IG at Audacious Autistics. I think Audacious.Autistics. Anyway, Audacious Autistics podcast. Season 1 is still on Spotify. Season 2 will only be available on YouTube and Podia. If you haven't joined my Podia community, feel free to do so. There's a link in my bio on my IG page, also on my website, asiatucoach.com, as well as Audacious Autistics. You can find links there as well. So without further ado, I will just say me. Oh, we're going to answer 10 questions. So this is 10 questions, meet the team style. And I will go first. My name is Asiatu. I never really say my last name. So my last name is pronounced Lawai. And my pronouns are they, them. My favorite color is blue. And it's my favorite color because I think it's association with water and just life, and it's pretty and it's nature. So yeah, there we go. So I'll go to Tereney.
Hello. My name is Tereney McDowell. Gosh, the pronoun question. I guess I default to she, her, but I don't care. And my favorite color is probably black, but I love them all. But if you're asking me what color I wear the most, it's black or gray. And why? It never does wrong. It goes with everything. It fits every mood. It honestly fits all of my moods all the time. I just feel like a richness coming from it. So that's why I love black so much.
Awesome. Jude.
Hey, my name is Jude Afalake Oluboden. I like to say the whole thing, especially like with having my name mispronounced my entire life. It's like I'm going to say the whole thing now, and so you can know. There like no mistake. My favorite color, guess. Just like yes. Blanket. And my pronouns are he, him. I skipped right over that. But yeah, my favorite color is pink. And honestly, my favorite color is pink because I have synesthesia, and with my synesthesia, it makes certain colors glow. And especially colors that are like on the red spectrum. And so like pink just like glows, and it like the emotion that it evokes is like, I can only get like euphoria pretty much. So it's like, yeah, I love pink because every time I see it, it's glowing like I'm on drugs, and it makes me feel really good. So
that's awesome. And Angie?
Hi. I have a changed name. I go by Angie Elena. You can call me Ange. Angie. My pronouns are them, they, them, theirs. My favorite color is green. I like jades and emeralds. They're connected to my life path number too. And I didn't know that until recently, but I've always been attracted to those, the spectrum of green, and I find it very nourishing when I feel like I can't go outside, which I have issues with. I've always kind of had issues with that in my adulthood. Green is a very centering color, because I know that while I can't have myself go outside a lot, just it's a disability. I can think of green, and I feel connected to like my ancestors and my heritage and my culture. So greenness is great. I do like all colors. I've changed my colors a lot, but green has stood the test of time. So yeah.
Cool. Question number 2. I won't answer this. Well, I guess I can. It's kind of a weird way for me to answer it, but I can answer it. Okay, I'm just gonna ask the question because y'all know what I'm talking about, and by y'all I mean the viewers. So let me try that again. Number 2 is, why did you want to join the Audacious Autistics podcast team? And I'll answer it in the sense of, why did I want to start the Audacious Autistics podcast? And the main thing being that I wanted to create as safe of a space as possible for autistic community, autistic and neurodivergent community, as well as those who want to support us. Just because we are so constantly invalidated and misperceived and abused and harassed and bullied, et cetera, et cetera. I wanted to create a space in which we could commune with each other and support each other, and especially with just emotional support, financial support, resources, just so people know that they're not alone. And I know for many autistics, before we diagnose, whether self-diagnosis or otherwise, because self-diagnosis is valid, we feel so alone and like an alien. I mean, I think we still are aliens in a lot of senses, but anyway, relative to neurotypical colonizer systems, but whatever. Besides that point, I just wanted to talk about things that directly affect us, to center intersectionality first and foremost, more so than anything, and to create a community around that, and hopefully enact change not only outside of our community, but with each other in positive ways. So the question to you guys is, why did you want to join the Audacious Autistics podcast team? And we'll go backwards this time. So for Angie. Sorry, I threw you out there. My bad.
It's okay. Okay. So I reviewed all the questions and I kind of have them answered. So I'm going to go off just to help me guide me a little bit. Well, first of all, I feel like I could relate. I was hoping that you would say why you created it, because I kind of already know. I could relate to the mission, the purpose beyond myself. So that always kind of gets me excited, but I learned something completely different while being and working through and with AAP about me and how to communicate, within community, because that's a new experience. But it's kind of the reason, I guess, because I feel like we're like-minded in the way that we feel about community and the change that we want to see, and maybe we won't see it in our lifetime, but hoping that it trickles down to, the generations to come. So yeah, it gets me hyped.
Cool. All right, Jude.
I have a very similar response, and it was to be in community with my people, but also to show others how to be in community, to show people, to be especially show the autistic community the path that has been stolen from them through white supremacy under racial capitalism, and really in understanding a lot of, it's very hard to understand yourself, to understand what's going on around you when you don't even know who you are, especially helping other people to understand that they're autistic, and that it's okay, and that it's okay when you're not able to push through things that you were not made to push through. That honestly, I feel like a lot of things like mindfulness and resilience has been repackaged for Western culture to operate under racial capitalism, and that your body and your ancestors and your family were not made for that. And I want to be able to show how to have rest and grace and understanding and introspection for what you need, and how to be in community, and how to not deny your own humanity and others' humanity. Especially with everything that's going on, I want to be able to share my experience, but also to grow together with others, and to share my story to help others to find their own words for so much that has been robbed from us, because we are not taught to be together, to isolate, to be individualistic. And so a lot of times we don't even have the words because nobody else ever gave us the opportunity to even know what it was. So I want to be able to offer that, but also as well to grow in that. And that's why I joined the AAP team.
Awesome. Thanks. Tereney?
Y'all just didn't save any juice for me at all.
All right.
I'm like, are you in my head giving the answer that I wanted to give? Because it's very much the same. Like Asiatu said, I spent all of my life thinking I was a body snatcher, something else inside, and my home planet is somewhere else, and I don't know where I fit here. And now having an understanding that it's autism and ADHD and probably several other things too, it's nice having verbiage that I can put to it, and understanding of where it comes from, and knowing that there's community there too. And so far, my only community has really been through social media, and being a part of this podcast helps bring a little bit more of that reach out there, because I felt lost for a really long time after a lot of burnout. And now knowing what I know, it's eye-opening, and just one of the most amazing things I've been able to experience over the last year and a half, that I've been kind of really deep diving into a lot of it. And I want to help others that are in that same journey, because being late diagnosed, late self-diagnosed, any of those things can be, kind of jarring, and you don't have to be alone through it. And I'm really glad that this exists as a means to help people kind of navigate these things.
You guys are awesome. Oh my gosh. Or you people, I should say. Y'all are awesome. And I'm so excited, and I'm just so thankful to have found all three of you. Like, oh, it's just, I'm so happy right now. Thanks. All right, continuing to question number 3. What are your neurodivergent diagnoses? I will go first. I was in puberty diagnosed with ADD, which is now ADHD, anxiety, depression, learning disabilities, including but not limited to dysgraphia and dyspraxia. And those are my main ones. And there's others, but yeah. Oh, and then of course I wasn't diagnosed autistic until 2020. So, and that was after I got self-diagnosed. Actually, this Sunday, which is tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow. It's either tomorrow or Monday is the day that I found the Facebook post that started my journey, that specifically spoke to traits of autism in girls and women. And it was a checklist of like 12. And I checked all 12. And then I had the, oh shit, am I autistic moment? And then I was like, down the rabbit hole. And then I was like, this is fun. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, I'm fucking autistic. That explains so much. So yeah, so those are my diagnoses. So let's go to Jude.
Okay, so yes, I'm autistic. So also ADHD. I also have dyscalculia. I have OCD. I have synesthesia. I have prosopagnosia, which is face blindness. I think there's more in there that I'm forgetting, but that's the base. The others are more like chronic illnesses.
I got those too.
Yeah.
And I also have synesthesia. When I listen to music, I get goosebumps,
Yeah.
and then I like feel the waves within my body is the best way I can describe it. So energetically. So yeah, I'll add that. All right, going to Tereney.
Oh gosh, as soon as you started talking about synesthesia and music, I'm like,
Yeah, right.
felt it immediately. But yes, so I have only been formally diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and PTSD. They didn't really give me a formal CPTS. I always mess it up. CPT.
CPTSD.
That one. But trauma has been happening my entire life, so it's pretty much there. I always had my suspicions of both ADHD and autism, but I also have some dissociative things going on as well. So a lot of things that I come up with cognitively, if it was during a period where I was in or out, I've forgotten it. So I think that's what took me so long to really harness and understand what was going on in my body, in my head, because so often, if I'm not fully present, I'm not remembering any of that shit.
Yep.
But what triggered it for me first, and pardon me for using the term, but that's what it was at the time. But I watched MTV True Life. Do you remember that, or did I just show my age?
Nope, I remember.
Yes, MTV True Life, and the episode was on at the time Asperger's, and every person that they had featured on the show, I'm just like, me, I do that too. Are we the same person? So at that point, I'm like, okay, something should be looked at. But then again, out the window, because I've more than likely dissociated into a whole other thing. And it wasn't until about July of last year that I actually took a few online assessments that I passed all of them really well. And that I never did that good on tests, right? I never do that good on tests. So when I passed all those, I'm like, I knew it. I freaking knew it. But there's that, and I also have some suspicions of OCD too, and a whole line of other things. So I'm just waiting for the opportunity to be able to nail them all down a little bit more, or at least have a better idea. But yeah, the ones that probably affect me the most are ADHD, PTSD, and autism.
Mm-hmm. I want to go back and scratch, because I've been trying to be more affirming with the language, and especially like analyzing what a lot. And I feel like a lot of what we still state as chronic illness, and though they do come with difficulties because we don't get the support and resources and accommodations that we need, they're still like fit under like a neurodiverse, and more of like, if we had that support to be able to act in, it's like it would be less draining, less debilitating. So even like, so I have PMDD as well, and I do have complex PTSD. And I feel like though they are difficult and they are debilitating, they can still fit under the flag of neurodiversity. And yeah, I'd say the one that gets me and I guess like my intracranial hypertension, I say that is more of a chronic illness rather than like neurodivergence, because that's more of like the dysregulation of my nervous system and the swelling. Like, so yeah, I think that more fits under chronic illness. But the one that affects my life the most is my OCD, and I have to plan most of my life around it. So yeah.
Angie.
I'm like, oh shit. Late diagnosed, autistic, self-diagnosed ADHD, because it makes a lot of sense.
Yes, definitely ADHD girl.
Diagnosed with OCD. I identify with the traits of dyscalculia. I don't know how to pronounce it. Sorry.
Dyscalculia.
Yeah.
It always, like that's my struggle, because I switch letters, and so I want to say the L first, or I don't know, it just switches. Dyslexia as well. With Symphonia, I was diagnosed along with the autism, and I'm sure there's other things. It's that the energy hasn't been there to keep going with the medical field, to keep treatments of any kind or like support because of just terrible, shitty experiences. And I have kids, and so their support kind of takes the front and center of the neurodivergence and support and what that looks like. That's me right now at this point.
I would also say, I forgot to say, I was diagnosed in puberty with auditory processing disorder, which is also super common amongst us autistics. So yeah, there's that too. Yeah,
And
there's
that's what I was just thinking. I'm like, there's so many things within both ADHDs and autism's bubble that affect me, but it's like, I don't know if I can consider one of them or the other an official like diagnosis of something. All of them are an onslaught on me sometimes.
I think honestly they are, because a lot of, especially what I've been learning, is that there's tons of overlap. So a lot of the times these are conditions that are comorbid, but you can have them without having them, but most likely you do have them as well, which also makes diagnosis difficult because of behaviorism, of how it's like, if you have inequality outside of this, then you obviously don't have condition, which does not take into account comorbidity and masking and fawning, where we won't show you that, or with a comorbid condition, that's where this part of that comes from. So to put it in this small little box that I don't have this condition because like I'm empathetic, meanwhile my high threat level detection going on all the time, that I have to mirror people and watch people. So I literally have that caring because it saves my life.
Yep.
So to say that I can't be autistic because I'm empathetic does not take into account so many more things. So
not only that, it's just wrong. It's just
wrong. No, it's wrong.
The reason why it's so hard, because we have so much overlap. The reason why we have so much overlap and why there's so many people being misdiagnosed and underdiagnosed for all types of diagnoses is because we're all pathologized, and you're only looking at people who are in crisis, like. And you're only taking into consideration traits of people who are in crisis. And so when you look at people who are in crisis or having trauma, whatever the case is, of course, there's going to be a whole lot of overlap because there's only but so much you can do to cope with trauma. You know what I mean? Like if they actually took the time to understand neurodivergence from a more holistic perspective and a true spectrum of the totality of us, not just us in crisis, I think then it would be easier to differentiate between different diagnoses, because you would have, okay, so yes, you're experiencing these traits from crisis and from trauma, but if they're not paired with these strengths of this particular diagnosis, then therefore you don't have that. And I think that would be so much easier for people to be able to differentiate if they stop fucking just pathologizing us, point blank period. And also, like you said, Jude, having the understanding that everything about humanity is a spectrum. Everything. So it's just like, to try to put us in these very binary or very limited, realities without considering intersectionality, without considering culture, without considering, privileges of class, etc. Like everything should be intersectional, because all of humanity and experiences are intersectional.
And to deny that is to deny our humanity. Exactly.
What's annoying is the fact that the medical field, when it comes to neurodivergence, they still categorize it as a mental illness. And so a mental illness, they're trying to treat it as if they can get you out of who you are, what's been ingrained in you, what's your DNA, what traits are who you are as characteristics, personality. It's all you, and they don't see it that way, and that's their problem as well. And they're looking for a specific gender, the specific age bracket. And so with that already being set up in the medical field when it comes to autism diagnosis especially, it's no wonder so many people get missed. And then because it's they're looking for a white little boy, that is missing tons and tons and tons of people who are out there existing. And it's a little bit maddening because I cannot talk to a medical professional at the level of in which other people do. I speak humanity, I guess, and they can't. It's almost like as if they can't speak that language because something within what they've been practicing, what they've been learning in those in school, and what that looks like systemically, they're being taught. It's almost as if they take the humanity out of them, and they're like, "Don't get attached. Don't worry about who this is. This is what we have. This is what we want you to look for. Anything outside of that, ignore it, whatever they tell them." And so when we go in there is nothing for us. They're not going to listen to us. And for a lot of people, it's almost, that's why I feel like when I heard that self-diagnosis was valid, I find that could help so many people, because going to be humiliated by a neurologist or your doctor is not, like, I'm not game. So it's why a lot of people are unsupported and don't get the things that they need, the answers that they're looking for, because it's not there for us.
Definitely.
Anything that's not in the binary of being a cis white male.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And
They don't give a fuck. They don't give if you ain't white and a male, they don't give a fuck about you. Like, and that's the sad reality. And that's the sad reality of society as a whole. If you're not a cis hetero boy or man, they don't give a fuck about you.
And a lot of, also with diagnosis, it is based off of how much of a burden are you to others.
Exactly.
So if somebody fills out a form because they give it to like your parents, to somebody you live with, your spouse. So if that person actually legitimately is giving you care and accommodation and your humanity, and so they fill out in a way and it's like, no, that's not a problem for me, you're not going to get diagnosis either. So a lot of times, and so if it shows that you are an efficient enough producer under capitalism to be able to contribute, then they will not give you that diagnosis because it's not going to be a problem anyway.
Exactly.
It's like everything that you go to seek support in. And, that's why I really I know that we're getting off topic, but I really dislike, organizations and anything that's, it's hard. I do appreciate a lot of nonprofits. I'm not saying that there's a lot of things that aren't helping, but
you preaching to the choir. I don't fuck with nonprofits.
Talk your shit. Go on. Talk your shit.
I don't fuck with nonprofits like that. You know that.
I know you. I know. And these over orgs, but I will say there are a few people who, they started their nonprofit without, I guess really knowing, they thought they could help, etc. But what it is, and because I have been I was chronically homeless most all my life, especially when I hit 15 and I was on my own, forget about it. So I've been through these programs in the system. And the thing is, you have to prove, like you have to perform and do all these things that for me, as number one, Scorpio rising, I am not trying to perform for you. I am not here fucking clowning around, I need help. But I'm also not gonna, how I was when I was a teen, looking for those resources. I shouldn't have to beg somewhere. I shouldn't have to share so much, of what they've given me, like my information, all this stuff. You have to pretty much lay everything out on the table and be vulnerable to complete strangers who don't see you as human to get help. And I think that it's just easier to give people what they need, but that's not, the world we live in. And I guess that's why I'm here too, because I think that's bullshit.
and take it a step further, Angie, I'm not going to say a few, I'm going to say most. As somebody who's been an activist and an organizer who's worked with nonprofits, most organizations and movement work and nonprofits are extremely ableist and mirror white supremacy and capitalism. And they're doing, my people are dying. I have so many people and so much where I am burnt out in just not only from work, but in movement work and in doing things. And I understand that we do not exist outside of racial capitalism, but in so much they always go back towards mirroring racial capitalism in it, where they demoralize us by saying, oh, you're in this for this goal, let's have unity, you're saving the world, you're saving these people, but they don't give us enough money to survive, where they don't give us enough time to rest and push us and then punish us when we can't do those same things, where we have to perform and burn ourselves out. And then if we die, it's like, oh, at least they died for the cause, but I didn't want to die for the cause. I wanted to live. I want my children to live. Most of this work is not disability or humanity friendly. And they put that because we are working towards this goal that we should put up with it. But if we mirror the same systems that we're fighting, we're still upholding the same systems that we're fighting. And I can't do that. I can't survive in that. And to tell me that I have to is still just going to kill me. And when I talk about this, and most of this, I'm going to be real. I can feel my body breaking down. I live by myself. It is very hard. I have community on the internet, but it's very hard to find community with here. And I feel like that is it's still necessary to have community that is with you. And even just little things, just literally somebody who can like hold me, to calm me down. So the stress that is causing me to go mute, to have seizures, that I cannot walk, to calm down. But without that, I'm scared, like frequently, when am I going to die? And that is a lot of disabled people's reality that we have to sit with, that makes people uncomfortable, that it is our reality that because we are moving like this, because I don't get that accommodation, because I do not have community, that I have to look death in the face every fucking day. And so it has to be said, and it has to be acknowledged that all of these systems like, oh, for rent accommodation, for rent help, for light assistance, for the abortion access, for even these movements are incredibly ableist and work us into the ground to death, and then tell us that at least they did for a cause, it wasn't our fault, or I wish we could have done something. You could have paid me, bitch. That's what you could have done.
For real.
Yeah.
And they could have paid me a living wage. You do not get to be a director and make 6 figures, multiple properties, but we dying. I can't afford to eat. I can't afford to pay attention. That's what you could have done. So, yeah.
But they'll send thoughts and prayers, though.
Oh my gosh!
Prayers all the time.
Lots of prayers. I wish I could have done something. You need to check on your friends.
That's what I'm saying. Like they'll anytime anything happens, thoughts and prayers. Don't want to do anything about it to actually change the system, to actually help people, to enact long-term significant change. No, it's just thoughts and prayers and performative bullshit. And yeah, it's a huge problem. And I can't wait for this to just fall the fuck. Like I'm ready. I'm waiting for society to collapse. I am. And I've been saying that for many, many years now.
Me too. Me too.
Waiting. But everybody's just like, oh, well, you don't want that because you'll be suffering. And I'm like, you act like I ain't suffering now.
That is my reality right now. What's going to change for me? Nothing.
And the difference is, at least now, that's part of the reason why I'm creating community, so people can understand that, you know, when shit does hit the fan, that we can find each other, that we can still connect to each other, that we still have these relationships with authenticity, and that people who are willing to support us and to help us. And that's part of my motivation for doing what I do. And I always say this, community is the antithesis of capitalism.
So is.
And we have to learn as people to reconnect to one another authentically. And guess who does that naturally? And guess what community does it so well that we're a threat?
I feel like the autistic community, definitely. I feel like it's neurodivergence as a whole, but in each diagnosis, you know, the people who have that experience, that lived experience, autism, being autistic is by far right at this moment in history, where we have more community and people are getting to know what neurodivergence looks like in other ways, like ADHD, OCD, and other diagnoses. So I wanted to let you know that I'm probably gonna have to hop off maybe like around 1. So just wanted to let you know.
Okay, no worries. So let's see, next question. Well, we kind of already talked that. It was, what is your autism diagnosis experience? But I think we kind of pretty much all touched on that already. So 5, how did being diagnosed change things for you? I'll go first. I always say this, but to me, the main thing that it changed was my ability to give myself grace and to support myself. So that instead of perceiving myself as this broken, incapable, why am I lagging behind all of my peers, via materialistic, capitalistic means, it gave me a reason for that. And it also allowed me to know my brain more and my behaviors more and know the whys behind my behaviors, so that I'm able to give myself language, grace, and understanding where I wasn't before. And so I went from, oh my gosh, I'm broken, to, oh my gosh, I've accomplished so much without any real support and accommodations, and without even knowing for so many years about being autistic. And I'm still thrived to an extent, obviously not to the extent that my peers were, but still, like, it totally shifted my perspective. And then it also, in moments where I have like ADHD paralysis, or if I'm struggling with time, or if I'm struggling with just chores, or like even honestly hygiene and like brushing my teeth and stuff like that, I'm like, okay, so that's my PDA kicking in. All right, so that's my ADHD paralysis. And I just have no concept of time, because time is not linear and it's just made up. So yeah, I'm doing well, I'm okay. So yeah, I think that's definitely helped me. And I'll go with you, Angie, first.
All right. So the question was, how did being diagnosed change things for me? I would say that I've been hearing less and less of other people's voices and opinions about myself since I was chiquita, since I was little. I'm hearing more and more of myself. And I left the intention immediately due to like the neurologist that I experienced, like had the first initial diagnosis, the EEG and all that stuff. And I was going through a lot. I had a terminal illness around the time that I got diagnosed. And so that had to be me and my son's safety, where my son was going to happen if I ended up, not being here on this planet. There was a lot coming forward, and I just wanted to know everything I could about myself. Finally, I guess I didn't have intentions to leave this planet, but Marilla, so it is a terminal illness. And so it kind of like had me put autism on the back burner, though, because of that neurologist experience. But life kind of holds, like when the pandemic, obviously for a lot of people, it wasn't just me going through shit, it was the whole world. So we had to halt, stop. And then is when what else is there to do? Because I was so busy to being a single parent, grinding, never resting, being chronically ill, and being, scared all the time, and being alone. And I started to be on social media for the first time. And I found the autistic community through YouTube and through Instagram. And I saw a lot of whiteness, a lot of, it's always that way. Even through the smallest things, you go looking for images on something specific and white people show up first. So I didn't have a connection to it immediately because I couldn't relate to a lot of the things, the experiences, and the way that they presented the information for me. But as I dug deeper, it's where I met one of my special interests, obviously, is I guess historical patterns and human justice and how that intertwines. And so finding people who were also talking about human justice, the stigmas within the medical field, but specifically to autism, is when I started to realize, that I've been sleeping all that time. So yeah, it's changed for me a lot, because it circled me back to who I really am since I was a kid, advocating for myself, advocating for others. I didn't put up with no bullies. I didn't care if I got in trouble. I defended people. A lot of that got shut down because I had to hyper focus on survival, and systems make sure that you're in that state, so you never have to know who you are. So you're just wandering through life, and that's how that's changed for me. It's brought a lot of, who I am, and I'm able to see other people for who they are too, and that's helped a lot.
All right, Jude.
How did being diagnosed change things for me? Well, first, it made everything makes so much sense. It made my entire life make sense and make me to understand myself, and that I'm not. It made me understand my trauma and the way people treated me the way I did, but that I did not deserve it. It helped me find my humanity, and that I'm not deserving of harm because I am different. And it helped me understand that harm comes from the lie that other people have been told, but just because they believe that lie does not mean I am deserving of harm. It helped me to understand more, to seek my bodily autonomy, to keep myself and my children safe, who are also autistic and neurodivergent and gender non-conforming. It helped me to understand that I do not need to people please for survival. That I honestly, that before, that was a survival technique that I had to do in the situation that I was, but where I am right now, I refuse. And if it is in a space that I have to be in, that I'm not going to shut the fuck up, because it's killing me. I'm not going to let you, if it is a space where it's going to kill me, you are not going to know what you've done. Because so much of living under white supremacy, under imperialism and colonialism, is that they did hide the path, that there is another way to live, and that we are not wrong, and that we are not made to grind until we die, and that our worth is in that grinding. Our worth is in our existence. And I found my worth in finding my diagnosis. And to understand my children, and it helped me in my journey to heal my inner child. And it helped me to understand that healing, it started so much of my healing, but it also helped me understand that healing is not linear, and that healing is not me fitting into boxes of what other people think I should be, to be valid of worth, and to be valid of community, and to be valid of relationship. And that if that's what's expected of me, then I don't have to be there. But it's also, in my diagnosis, it's helped me, it's brought loneliness too, and putting up boundaries, and putting up in a place that I will not be harmed just for companionship, not just to be around people. It makes it hard to find people who are not going to hurt you, to find people who are not going to watch you die and be like, oh, I don't know what I could have, or be like, well, they deserved it after, yeah, I harmed them, but why did they react that way? And then let me die. It's to not be around those people. There's a lot of people. It is a lot of society. It has been ingrained in them. And I understand it, and having that logic, and being an autistic, a lot of us, we need that logic so we are not fawning. So to not be able to fawn through life and so many things has been helpful, but it has brought that loneliness, and it hurts. But it also helped me when I do find that community to feel that safety. So I'm not so tense anymore, so that I can be calm, so that my body and that brain fog and that freezing and that mutism is gone. And it's rare to find those people, but it's so much healthier for me and for my healing to be able to function, and to seek that for my children, and to help teach my children how to navigate this life, but also to show them that this system in this life is not what we're striving for. That though we live in it, this is not what you do not have, you are not what's wrong with the system.
The system is
It's
what's
the
wrong with it.
system. I am not what, I am the struggle. The People's Oracle on Twitter, I really like them. They say like the struggle, you are not, you in the system are not a burden. The struggle for survival is a burden, and it's supposed to be a shared burden. And for you to be difficult in the system, for it to be difficult to survive and to operate in the system as it wants you to, that is not your fault. It is because they lied to you and told you that this was the way it's supposed to be. And me not believing that lie anymore and not adhering to that lie anymore is part of my revolution and my fight towards revolution and liberation.
Thank you for sharing. Gosh, that was powerful. And I felt all of that so much on so many levels. And that's exactly why I'm here and why I'm doing what I do, so that we can all commune together and not have to feel like we are alone. And even if it's virtual, that's still better. That I hope that it eventually trickles into in person, because I feel like for you, I struggle with that in-person connection. Like I don't really have very many people like actually in my life that I could, spend time and share space with. But I have an amazing online community who I love and adore and value, and will do as much as I can to support, and vice versa. So yeah, I think we're getting there. It's just we're not quite there yet. Tereney,
Oh
how
my
did you
gosh.
diagnose change things for you?
A lot of the same ways that both Angie and Jude have mentioned. It brought a lot of clarity to me. Just to kind of backtrack, because of that dissociative thing, I always kind of had that shadow awareness of things. And when I moved to Texas about 7 years ago, I kind of left my home with the intention of shedding the stuff that was plaguing me before and trying to find who I am within myself. And it started me on a path that was a lot of unmasking, but I didn't know it at the time. And then it made me realize, like, why has life always been such a struggle this entire time? Why can't I just get anything right? Why can't I ever do anything right? But I was looking at it from, that capitalistic lens and trying to fit into a neurotypical society. And I was dying. I was dying. I suffer from suicidal ideation. Was very close to making an attempt when I was about 15, 16 years old, and have struggled to not conceptualize that whole process ever since then. But it's been something that has always plagued me. And now understanding that, yeah, you don't fit into this thing because you're not supposed to. And that's okay. It gave me not necessarily an out, but just an ability to say, yes, it's fine being who you are as you are, without feeling so guilty for not being able to produce or be, conform to this or conform to that. Because I always was wondering, like, why am I always trying to go against the grain? I didn't understand it. And I always, align my thoughts and feelings with books and stories. And the one that comes to mind was the Divergent series. And you know how they have that whole society set up where they've got abnegation and all those things. I'm like, oh, I would have totally been divergent. Totally would have been divergent. There's no way you could put me in any of those little corners and I would have thrived. Absolutely not. And then I'm thinking, well, that there's something to that. And now having that understanding has given me such a relief. And I think, Jude, you and me maybe had posted that the stages of when you realize that you're autistic, the aha, or the relief, the grief, and all of those other things. I'm still very much in, or I don't think I'll ever get rid of the relief, but there have been so many instances where I'll look back at my life and be like, damn, I could have had so much assistance in so many things, and who knows what could have happened for my life if I wasn't having to fight for everything so fucking hard. So I'm trying not to be, bitter about that, but I'm reveling in the relief that I have the answer that I was looking for now. And not as much suicidal ideation, even though it's still a constant battle.
That might be the OCD girl.
Yeah.
You're muted.
Oh, you're muted, Asiatu.
Just kidding. I've had suicidal ideation since I was off and on since I was in kindergarten, so I can definitely relate. Well, it looks like we went through an hour and we got through half the questions. So I'm going to propose that we stop here and that we do a part 2 if you guys are all open to that at some other time. Just because we verbose, because we autistic and that's what we do. And I will not apologize because it's not something to apologize for.
Never,
so
ever.
I hope everybody listening appreciated us sharing, and stay tuned for part 2. Again, you can find Audacious Autistics season 1 on Spotify, YouTube, as well as Podia. Season 2 will only be available on YouTube and Podia, so check us out there, find us, subscribe, like. We greatly appreciate it, and much more to come with part 2, and season 2 of the podcast will kick off next month. So episode 1 will be out next month sometime. So stay tuned. Thank you all for being here. I enjoyed talking to my team. I'm so excited. And just, yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you for living audaciously and out loud. And until next time. Bye, guys.
See you later.